Hello everyone, I'm on today to show you a project that I've been working on with some leaves, and I will be doing a little craft with me once I've shown you what I've been working on. And the kit that I have been working on today is from Poppiness, and it's her leaf kit. Now this is a huge kit, and I believe that it is coming, if it isn't there already, in other colours. I'm using the light green colour today, and just with that kit there's about 40 pages, so you can see these are enormous kits to work with, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding just the right leaf for you. So I'll just start by showing you the Poppiness leaf kit that I'm using, and this gorgeous leaf on the top is one of the bigger ones. They come in all different sizes. This particular leaf is one that takes up most of an A4 page, but the possibilities of what you might do with that is just endless. You could use it for like a whole page collage, you could stitch over it all, you could add things into it, you could layer it, you could add lots of different coloured threads and wool and fibres. So there's such a lot you could do with that. Some of the other leaves are these serrated kind of leaves, the serrated style, but there's so many to choose from. You've got real autumn looking leaves. Here you've got a little bit of everything to choose from, so you couldn't not find the perfect leaf in this selection. And if you're someone who really likes working with dried leaves or pressed leaves and flowers, but you're in a place where you're not able to collect those, or you can't, because of the season, time of the year, you can't get hold of or get outside to get any at the moment, these make a really great alternative. And just so many choices here. You have to be able to find the right leaf. I've only got a sample here of what's actually available. There's so many different ones that you can choose from. So different kinds of styles of all kinds of plants and trees, different angles and aspects. Like that one would fit nicely on the edge of a page. I've actually sized that one down a little bit to make it easier to see, but it does fill a page when you print it out. These shaped, heart-shaped sort of leaves, more serrated leaves. As you can see, that there's so many to choose from it, and these you can just all fussy cut them out, put wherever you like, and layer them up as many as you'd like. And when you do fussy cut them out, I know a lot of people are very fussy with their fussy cutting and cut really close, but you don't actually have to do that. You can leave, like I have with these little examples, you can actually leave a little white border. I hope that you can see okay there, that's focused. You can leave a little white border around the edge and then come in with your inking tool and just ink around that in the same colour as the leaves that you are using, and you will find that that disguises the white bit. So if you're not a very good cutter and you've put off from fussy cutting for that reason, just have another think about it, because you can just sort of loosely cut around the edges, then ink them up, and they'll look just as good, and you won't actually be able to tell that you haven't cut really close to them. So what have I been doing with these leaves today? Well, I've been making some tags for a journal, and I'll start with this one, which is really a library type card. It's more of a bookmark than a tag because it's quite big, but I'm hoping that you can see okay there. It's so big to fit in. This is a long leaf from the collection, and it has a nicely folded bit on the top. So I've just used that in a sort of collage where I've added a little bit of newspaper and a tiny bit of dyed cheesecloth or muslin that I dyed myself just with the Tim Holtz inks. I've added a little tab at the top, and I've used another of Susan's papers, the marbled greens, which blend really well with the green leaves, so I've used that to make the tab. And I've also added on the bottom a cute little saying, which is, "An early morning walk is a blessing for the whole day," Henry David Thoreau. And that's also from Susan's collection. She has some lovely little sayings and kits with some beautiful poems and things on them, so that's from her collection. And then the other thing this reminded me of was a childhood book that I so dearly loved, and I'm sure many others did, called The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar. And because a lot of Susan's leaves had the most gorgeous holes and things in them, I thought they really needed to have a little caterpillar to nibble around the edges. So I made this cute little tag. Very simple, it's not overdone. I've just used a little piece of linen-y type ribbon on the end for a tab. I've sewn it across there, and I've just left it fairly plain so the little caterpillar stands out. But doesn't he look cute? I think he's gorgeous. Here's a little stamp that I've used there, and I'll list that below so that you can find the caterpillar too if you'd like to. But he's cute. If you're clever enough to draw one, you could do that. This one here is a fairly heavy styled tag that I've made, which would look really nice on the cover of a journal. If you were doing a really native, nature-based journal, this would be the ideal sort of to use on your cover. I've used fabric on the background, and believe it or not, that's just recycled shorts, camouflage fabric, and it was just such nice material. I cut it up to use, and it looks really good in a grungy style tag. Over this side I've got some fibres, just a bit of eyelash trim on the top, and some of that, I don't really know what you call that, but it sort of comes as a ball of wool, and it's just a woven fibre, and it's in bones and browns. Along the bottom I've used some more of that sort of a canvasy style ribbon, and I've added some little sticks and a bit of sort of calico fabric on the bottom there, and that just pulls out to be another one of the little sayings that says, "Forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair." Khalil Gibran, which is one of my absolute favourites. I really love that one. I tend to use that a lot. So I've just rolled that up in a little scroll there, which you could tie together if you wanted to, but it sits okay on its own. And I've used this leaf that has the serrated sort of edges, and I've just sort of rolled them up a little bit on the corners so that it mimics a dried leaf that's curling in the autumn. I've stitched along the veins to make them stand out just a little bit more, so you've got that nice stitching pattern going through, and I've just used some silk to do that stitching, and I've added one of the little moths there. I think that might be a Tim Holtz moth, and I've just fussy cut him out and put him on there, so he's like the next stage from the grub. So we've got a grub and a moth. But the next one I've done is like a sample, a leaf sample, and so I have just used some vellum, or you could use tracing paper or anything that sort of gives you that transparent look. I've put the leaf inside, and I've added a little number inside there, used some little just bits and pieces that I had in my stash. I had this lovely description of life, and it reminded me of a leaf. It says leif, the state of being alive, animals and plants' ability to function and grow, period during which life lasts, living things and way of living. And that made me think very much about the life cycle of the leaves and how we go through the seasons, and in the autumn the leaves fall from the trees, and that's when we collect them up and press them and dry them and do our eco dyeing and things. Also, you know, the spring with the new green growth, and you get the little leaves curling in their new bud form and growing. So I thought that was very apt. So I've just stitched around the edge of that, and that's just a little, it's got free sewing I left on the back. So just a little tag to go in your journal. This one here is a recycled envelope. So I have just used an old mailer that you get in the mail, and I have gone over that with some collage, and I've just used there's bits of everything. I've used some book page that's aged, I've used some tea-dyed paper here, I've used some muslin here or cheesecloth, I've used, there's a spare bit, I've used a pressed flower from the garden, another one of the sayings, how beautifully leaves grow old, how full of light and colour are their last days, John Burroughs. I've also stamped a little buzzy bee because we've got all the beautiful insects with our leaves. Of course, this one's got a nice big hole in it, so the caterpillar's been there. And I just put a lovely butterfly on the top there, and they're just printed onto a little piece of fabric, which I've just sort of aged up a little bit. On the inside I have a tag, so I've used a nice big tag there, and I've used the bees from one of Susan's kits, the Poppiness kits, and I've also used one of her sayings on here. Happy indeed is the naturalist, to him the seasons come around like old friends, to him the birds sing as he walks along, the flowers stretch out from the hedges or look up from the ground, and as each year fades away he looks back on a fresh store of happy memories. And that's exactly what I was talking about before with the seasons and the leaves changing. So I've used a couple of the tiny leaves on here just to accentuate the bees buzzing around their pussy willow. So that just pops inside the envelope. So that's a few ideas for you, and there is plenty of options. And as I'm working on a leaf journal, a journal for these to go in, I had plenty of ideas to add to that. So I'll be back in a moment with a little project for a page in the journal. So I'll work out a little layout, and we'll come back and we'll put that together. So I'll see you back shortly. Okay, I've been and gathered up a collection of my favourite bits and pieces to work with. Come up with 2 ideas that I thought you might like to work with to give you 2 opportunities for different styles. So the first one I thought I would try is with my eco-dyed paper, and this is one I did last year. It has a big leaf pattern in the middle and a little daisy at the top, and I just thought that would make a really nice pocket. And because I use a lot of chemicals when I'm doing my eco-dyeing to bring out the colours, it leaves a bit of a powdery film on it, so I always go over the top of that and seal it in so nothing can come out and it doesn't give you that dry feeling when you touch it. So that's nice and dry now. It's been treated with some varnish. Okay, so that's our pocket. We'll pop that on there. Just making sure that you're away from the edge that is going to fold over, because you don't want it to get caught up in your fold when you fold your journal page. So if you wanted to, you could stitch around that or do something fancy, but just for the matter of doing it on camera and quickly, I'm just going to glue that today. And I've got some bits and pieces here that I thought would collage nicely. That goes very nicely with the eco-dyed paper. And sticking with our nice bright green colours of our pretty leaves that we have to work with from the Poppiness collection. I'm just going to put a bit of glue down there to hold the, some people call it muslin, some people call it cheesecloth. Depends where you come from and how heavy or light your piece of fabric is, as to what you choose to call it. But it's an open weave fabric that I have dyed. I usually use the Tim Holtz dye, so that's probably what I've used on there. We'll add our leaf, and I've chosen this leaf here with the little sort of sharp edges. Thought that looked nice on there for a change. So I'm just tacking him down with a little bit of the art glitter glue. You can use any glue that you like. I just like this one because it's easy to use on camera. So we might just pop that one down there, nestled in amongst the fabric. And I found this lovely wooden button, which I think it might be made of coconut fibre by the feel of it. It's a nice wooden button that blended well, and I thought I'd build that up with some fibre. And I've got a little piece of bias binding there, then add the little piece of bias binding somewhere. Where would we like our button? So our button's going to go sort of in there, I think. So we'll pop that down there, just layering it up to give you a little bit of texture. So you've got some different fabrics and different feels of things. So our coconut button should hold okay with this glue. But if you've got a glue that isn't very strong, you might want to look at something else that's got a bit more grip to hold your button down. So that was a really quick and easy little way to incorporate the leaves in your journal pages. It's very simple, it's not overdone, it just gives it that little bit of lift. One sort of tone, a very natural looking tone that you could do. And I thought, just as a sort of opposite to that, I'd show you one that's really light and bright. And a little watercolour here of a flower. So if you imagine, like, these two pages probably won't be together in your journal because you'll have other pages in between, so you know it's okay to change direction a little if you've got a variety. But just to show you how different things might work and you can try other options, I did a little watercolour flower as a pocket, so this would be like a tuck spot or a pocket if you wanted to. You could have it going either way, whichever takes your fancy. But I just thought the poppy leaves are sort of this kind of shape when you actually look at them close up, so I thought maybe that might look okay on there. It is probably a little bit out of proportion compared to my painting, but that doesn't really matter. And I thought maybe something nice going down the side. You could look at doing a ruffle depending on how fancy you want to get, but the lighter, brighter colours, you know, give you a different look altogether to the darker colour. So, okay, I've got you back in frame now, I think, so we can continue on. So this, as I was saying before, is a watercolour that I've just put together rather quickly to show you how to do a layout and incorporating the pretty leaves. And I mentioned a couple of options that you have. You could add some kind of frill down your page to lift it up, or you could go a bit, that might, you know, some people might find that just a little bit too much and a bit over the top, so you could go something a little bit more low key like that, which I think does look quite nice. And then adding in your leaf over here if you want to, or you could put it down your ribbon and have it sort of separate to your flower over here. Depends on personal taste really, what inspires you as an individual. So I think what I'd like to do is probably stitch around it. So what I might do is I'll cut this to suit our our edge there, which is about there, and then I think I might take it away and sew it and bring it back and show you what it looks like when it's sewn around. So I'll glue that down. I'm just gluing it to tack it really, so that it's in the right spot to sew, and I wouldn't really recommend sewing over wet glue, so I'd wait for it to just dry before you do sew it, unless you're lucky enough to have the non-stick needles, which probably are okay with glue. I think they've got like a Teflon needle now you can use. They're one step ahead of us with these sewing ideas. Okay, so we've got that. I mean, that looks quite pretty on its own, doesn't it? Just stands out. But to incorporate our leaf, another thought I had might be to even stitch along the veins like I did in one of our other, like I did in this one here. I stitched down the veins and that made it sort of pop out and look quite nice. So I might do the same thing with this one. I'll just go and stitch down along the leaves to make that sort of your focal point. So I'll be back in just a moment when I've finished the sewing around. Okay, so I've been and sewn all the way around there, and doesn't that really lift it up? I've stitched down the bias binding and around the leaves through the veins, and I just grabbed a poppy leaf. This one's a bit ragged, mind you, but just to show you how close that leaf is to an actual poppy leaf. It's very similar. It's got just the right kind of shaped leaves, so that is quite uncanny that worked out to be similar. And this leaf over this side is also a poppy leaf from a different area of the poppy and has a similar kind of shape to that one, so they worked out quite well to be sort of fitting in with the poppy theme. So there you go. I hope that that's given you some ideas of how to use those fussy cut leaves throughout your pages, and I think they just give it that nice little lift of something different to add when you can't add real dried leaves if you don't have them available. We're lucky enough to have quite a good supply here in Aussie to add to our bits and pieces, and you can dry them very easily. The gum tree leaves especially dry very easily in our climate, so you get lots of different shapes and colours to choose from. The colours always amaze me, how you get all these different greens and reds appearing. Very pretty. Anyway, that is my little take on what to do with the fussy cut leaves, and there are so many different styles. These are like almost the gum tree shape. So you could probably think of many more ideas than what I have, but there you go. There's a few little ideas to help get you motivated to actually have a go. Cut out some leaves and see what you can come up with. There are many different ideas of styles of projects you could have a go at. So see what you think. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you with some new journals very soon, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.